Oh yes, now we are talking.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So, it is time for another movie review in my review series of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga. This is overall the 9th installment of the MCU, and also a second installment of Captain America's trilogy. And this film, guys, of course, is none other than 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So this film, of course, was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and so now when it comes to this film, then how was this movie made? So this film was written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. They began writing the sequel around the release of the first Captain America movie, The First Avenger, in July 2011. And the script drew from the Winter Soldier story arc in the comic books by Ed Brubaker, as well as conspiracy fiction from the 1970s, such as 3 Days of the Condor. And the Russell brothers signed on to direct this movie in June 2012, and casting began the following month. Filming began in April 2013 in Los Angeles, California, before moving to Washington, D.C. and Cleveland, Ohio. And the directors used practical effects and intense stunt work, but also 2,500 visual effects shots created by 6 companies. The film premiered in Los Angeles on March 13th, 2014, and was released in the United States on April 4th, as part of Phase 2 of the MCU. The film received positive reviews and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. It grossed $714 million worldwide, making it the 7th highest grossing film of 2014. When it comes to my reaction to this film, guys, so as you guys know, I was not a fan of Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. Those 2 films in 2013's year for Marvel were very disappointing in my opinion, and I did say that if I did not like this movie, I would have probably stopped watching the MCU. However, though, guys, when I watched this film for the first time when it came onto television, when I first saw it, I absolutely loved it. This film was absolutely phenomenal, and I consider it to be the best Captain America movie of all time. It's an absolute masterpiece, and I definitely really love this movie. So, what is this movie about? So in the film, Captain America, once again played by Chris Evans, joins forces with Black Widow, played once again by Scarlett Johansson, and Falcon, a new character, of course, played by Anthony Mackie, to uncover a conspiracy within the spy agency S.H.I.E.L.D. while facing a mysterious assassin known as the Winter Soldier. So, now when it comes to what I think is good about this movie, so once again, it has a really great cast of actors. Now, as I said before in my reviews for Captain America: First Avenger and the Avengers First Avengers movie, while I did, of course, lose respect for Chris Evans, and I no longer like him as a person, it thankfully doesn't stop my enjoyment of this movie, because despite that, I still love this movie, despite his presence in the movie. And for what it is worth, Steve Rogers, in my opinion, is a more likeable character than Chris Evans is as a person in real life, so yeah. And Steve Rogers is once again a likeable protagonist in this movie, for what it is worth, and still remains one of my favourite portrayals of a character, although, of course, my personal favourite is, of course, from Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, in my opinion, the greatest Marvel animated series of all time. And I also, as well, loved, once again, the return of Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in this movie. I think she once again played a part really well, reprising her role in this, and I like how they gave her a big role in the story, which was really nice. And also, as well, when it comes as well to other supporting characters, I also liked as well the addition of Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. This is his first appearance in the role as a former US Air Force pararescueman trained by the military in aerial combat. And Anthony Mackie played this part really well. It's one of my favourite roles of Anthony Mackie that I've seen him play. Although, personally though, guys, my favourite portrayal of the Falcon is also from Earth's Mightiest Heroes, voiced by Lance Reddick, may rest in peace. But for what it is worth, Anthony Mackie does a good job playing him in the MCU, and this is one of the films I do like him in a lot. For some films, I wasn't much of a fan of Falcon in because he didn't really get to do much, such as Age of Ultron, the first Ant-Man movie, and also Infinity War. But in the other films that he appeared in, he finally got to play an important role, thankfully, and this was no exception. So yeah, so I definitely did like the addition of Falcon in this, and he had good chemistry with Captain America as friends. It was definitely nice to see them working together. And speaking of Captain America and Falcon working together, I definitely as well loved how the film opened with them both running together. And we even, of course, hear a line which, of course, has definitely aged well, in my opinion, which, of course, is "on your left." And, of course, that quote has a much bigger meaning when you see Avengers Endgame. So, yeah, that was definitely really cool. And I also, as well, once again, love the return of the legendary Samuel L. Jackson and as Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And as I said before, guys, Samuel L. Jackson was a perfect casting for Nick Fury, especially because the ultimate version of a character is literally based on his likeness. So, yeah, I was so glad that, they cast him in the role, and he was an absolutely perfect casting. And I love how they gave him a really big role in this movie, because when you think about it, guys, the film is about, of course, a plot featuring S.H.I.E.L.D. being in compromise and dismantled. So it would make perfect sense to give Fury a massive role because he's the director, of course. And he definitely was great in this. And also with regards to Fury as well, I think the story of him, of course, appearing to being killed, but it's revealed that he faked his death, was also handled really well, in my opinion. They definitely did a really great job disguising his fake death, didn't they? Like, wow, that was pretty convincing, in my opinion. But I had a feeling he wouldn't be permanently dead because Samuel Jackson had signed on to be in lots of MCU movies, so I had a feeling he'd be returning, of course, later on. And yeah, Fury, in my opinion, was definitely one of the best parts of this movie. I think the only thing about him that didn't age well was probably how he said that last time he trusted someone, he lost an eye. And of course, I'm looking right at you, Captain Marvel. And I also, as well, definitely loved the return of Kobe Smulders as Agent Maria Hill as well. It was nice to see her return in this, and also returning from the first Captain America movie is also Hayley Atwell as Peggy Carter, and she appears in the film as an old lady who Steve visits, of course, at a care home that she's staying at. And I gotta say that they did a really great job with aging Hayley Atwell in this. They did a really great job with it. It definitely looked really convincing because I think the character would be about 96 in this timeline, I think. So they did a really great job making Hayley Atwell look like an old lady in this movie. I believe they did it through CGI methods. It was very impressive. And another new character I liked in this film was also the addition of Agent 13, also known as Sharon Carter. She was pretty good, in my opinion, played by Emily Van Camp, and I also liked the introduction as well of Frank Grillo as Brock Rumlow, who is an agent within S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's revealed to be working for Hydra. And that's definitely my favourite role of Frank Grillo, and it was pretty cool how he came back in other films too, of course, where he would later, of course, become Crossbones. So yeah, and when it comes to the movie's villains, of course, there is, of course, two antagonists in this movie. So the title antagonist, of course, is none other than the Winter Soldier himself, who, of course, is an assassin, and he's been brainwashed now into working, of course, with the moles in Hydra who are in S.H.I.E.L.D. And I definitely really love the twist where it was revealed that he was Bucky. So that was definitely a brilliant twist right there that was really good. And it definitely, was done very well, in my opinion. Very well developed and very well executed, in my opinion. And Sebastian Stan did a really great job playing Winter Soldier and Bucky, both personalities, really well. And I consider it to be my favourite role of Sebastian Stan. And he definitely, did a really great job playing him in this movie. And I am glad we brought him back because he was great in the first Avenger. So I'm glad that he came back in this sequel as well. By the way, they didn't make his death pointless, of course. But yeah, I'm glad we brought him back in a way that made sense, where he, of course, becomes the Winter Soldier. And also as well, I definitely love the addition of Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce, who, of course, is a senior official within S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's also revealed to be a mole, of course, as part of Hydra. And he was definitely, a really good villain in my opinion, and so far it's my favourite role of Robert Redford that I've seen, and I think he did a really great job playing Alexander Pierce in this movie. Definitely a great villain, and I think, you know, he played his part so well in this movie, and yeah, Robert Redford is a great actor. And speaking of all villains in the movie, I definitely will also love how we got a pretty nice appearance by Toby Jones as Arnim Zola, who of course is the Hydra scientist working for Red Skull in the first Avenger, where he appears as a preserved consciousness in a supercomputer, which was pretty cool. And his story was actually very important for this film, because despite appearing in that one scene as a cameo appearance, he had an important role, of course, where he was recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D., but he secretly reformed Hydra within its ranks, so yeah, oh dear. And also as well, I'll definitely think the film has also great cameo appearances. I've already mentioned Arnim Zola, but there's a pretty funny cameo appearance by the legendary Stan Lee in this movie, where he of course appears as a security guard at the Smithsonian Museum, and he sees that Captain America has stolen his costume, and he has a pretty funny line, which is, "Oh man, I'm so fired." that is just hilarious, and yeah, rest in peace, Stan Lee. You're an absolute legend. Thank you for everything you've done for Marvel. You're an absolute legend, Stan Lee. Rest in peace. And also as well, when it comes to other characters also returning from previous movies, the film also does bring out Jasper Sitwell, the agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's revealed he's of course another mole for Hydra, so that was definitely a very cool twist that he was a mole all this time as well. And as well as that, the film not only does also have a great cast, but also, in my opinion, a very great story. It's kind of like a story of like where you can trust no one, because the organisation that you're working in has been compromised. There's moles in there working for the enemy, which is Hydra, and that was definitely, you know, pretty brilliant in my opinion. And this film is definitely, you know, a wild class as not just a brilliant action movie, but also as well a political thriller, kind of like, shall I say, Dark Knight, for example, in that sense. And I think it worked really well in my opinion. It was just absolutely fantastic, a great story, and yeah, they really did a great job of it. And also, the practical effects are also brilliant in my opinion for the movie, and they hold up really well, because this film, of course, is 9 years old, guys, and in my opinion, it never gets old. And the CGI for it is also fantastic as well, in my opinion. The visuals are very stunning as well, and it was definitely, you know, done really well in my opinion. But shame the same couldn't be said for MCU after Spider-Man No Way Home, isn't it? And the stunt work was also as well brilliant in my opinion. I can see why, you know, they use intense stunt work, because the fight scenes in this film are just brilliant in my opinion, done really well. And they're so much fun to watch. And the film also has a brilliant pace as well because of these great action scenes, because this film, guys, is 136 minutes, right? And in my opinion, the pacing is done so well. It doesn't feel boring or slow, in my opinion. It's done really well, in my opinion, the pacing. Really well. And I definitely as well love the musical score by Henry Jackman as well. Henry Jackman, in my opinion, is an underrated composer, and I think he did a really great job composing the music for this movie, and it was definitely good to listen to in this. And yeah, the film was absolutely amazing in my opinion, and I'll probably regard it as the best Captain America movie of all time, and one of my favourites of the MCU as a whole, in my opinion, because it was absolutely brilliant. I'd probably regard it as my 4th favourite MCU movie overall, behind Endgame, Infinity War, and the first Iron Man movie, because I think it's absolutely brilliant. And definitely, of course, the saviour for the MCU, in my opinion, because, as you guys know, I was losing faith in the MCU after I was disappointed with Iron Man 3 and Thor: Dark World. So, I was worried this one wouldn't be good, but thankfully I was proven wrong, because it was absolutely amazing in every way. And yeah, they really did a really amazing job making this movie. Really did, and I absolutely loved it. And even from last night's rewatch of it on my Blu-ray of it, it still holds up to this day really well. And also as well as of course having a great story as well, the film does have some pretty exciting credit scenes as well, because in a mid-credit scene we get to see, of course, a Hydra lab which is being headed by a member of Hydra called Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, played by Thomas Kretschmann. and he proclaims that the age of miracles has begun as scientists examine an energy-filled scepter, which of course once belonged to Loki. And there's 2 test subjects, one with superhuman speed and the other with telekinetic powers. And of course, it's revealed that they are Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, played of course by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen. So that's definitely really cool how they were hinted at, and that of course was setting up Avengers Age of Ultron as well. And then we get a post-credit scene where Bucky visits his own memorial at the Smithsonian Institution as well, so that was pretty cool as well. We got to see him see his past. So that was probably done as a way to help get his memory back as well. And so yeah, and also as well, guys, I think the film does handle a lots of, dark moments pretty well, in my opinion, because the film, of course, is about, an organisation being compromised and pretty much being destroyed, really, and it was done really well, in my opinion. And, like, despite the film ending with S.H.I.E.L.D. being in disarray, the film just ended fantastically, in my opinion. They did a really great job with it. And it was also promising as well because they were, of course, going to be hunting the rest of Hydra's remaining cells, as Fury is doing under the cover of his apparent death. And also, as well, Steve and Sam were going to be looking for Bucky as well. And it's also revealed that Brock Rumlow is also hospitalised following the destruction of a Triskelion. And speaking of Triskelion, I think this film handled more world building really well, in my opinion, too. So just the inclusion of a Triskelion, which is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters, that was really cool. And yeah, the film was just absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. Definitely, in my opinion, the best Captain America movie of all time. If you had asked me if there's any bad qualities I could say of this movie, well, I mean, apart from of course, me losing respect for Chris Evans, I still love the movie to this day. Despite losing respect for him, it doesn't affect what I think of the movie. I think the movie is absolutely incredible. In my opinion, the best Captain America movie of all time. And it's always an absolute blast to watch. And it's one of my all-time favourite MCU movies ever. So yeah. So guys, this is me doing my review for Captain America The Winter Soldier, the second installment of Captain America's movie trilogy. So if you were to ask me what I'd give a movie out of 10, well, to this day, guys, I always will give Captain America Winter Soldier a full-blown 10 out of 10, because I absolutely love this movie, and it's just absolutely amazing, really is. So yeah, so guys, this is me doing my review for Captain America Winter Soldier. So you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think of Captain America The Winter Soldier. If you've seen it on the comments below, what you think of it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for videos coming in the future. If you'd like to be a member, you can press join if you're using a PC or your little description, and I'll see you all later.